Hi everyone, my name is Jack, and this is not a Nuzlocke channel. As you may or may not have noticed, there's an ocean of that content already, and I'm not really interested in competing with it. What I am interested in is putting some respect on a certain little blue croc. This is Totodile, and if I'm reading the right forums, my little friend here is generally considered to be an A-tier starter across the community. A pretty solid first Pokemon. There's nothing outright wrong with him. He's a solid physical attacker and a water type, so he pretty easily outclasses the other starters in the region, Flamethrower and Lamau, so there's good reason to choose him when starting your journey. Some water types in the region are gonna outclass him, but that's par for the course in any region. But Totodile has never been considered as one of the all-time greats. He's no Swampert, no Infernape, no Skeledirge. I made a poll a few months ago asking who you all believe to be the best starter ever, and the top 3 answers were these 3 Pokemon. There were a few stragglers suggested as well, and yet not a single Feraligatr was mentioned, and I simply can't accept that, because none of you have seen what I've seen. You're entitled to your opinion, but I personally believe that this Pokemon is not only the single greatest Pokemon in HeartGold SoulSilver, yes, I see you Starmie and I see you Gyarados, but also belongs amongst those top tier starters of yore. Now, usually what I do here is write an hour-long video essay to try to convince you why this line is so good, but today I've decided to just let the gameplay do the talking. If I told you that Totodile could single-handedly win every single fight in the game, what would you say? Yeah, probably, I imagine. There are several solo runs with this line on YouTube already, and while those videos are great, I don't think they fully demonstrate how effortlessly Totodile breaks this game. I'm saying that once you pick Totodile in New Barktown, you have effectively beaten HeartGold and SoulSilver. I'm saying that if you know what you're doing, and I like to think I do, this Pokemon is so broken, so busted, that it can beat the entire game with Hardcore Nuzlocke rules, and I'll be using this rule set today to prove to you that Totodile is indeed one of the most powerful starters of all time. Now, you might think that this is a pretty tall order, but I'd like to imply that it isn't by tying my hands even further. As we head over to Professor Elm's lab and pick my Totodile, we can see that this one has, hilariously, an adamant nature, which is one of the best natures I could have possibly gotten. I will not be using this Totodile. See, I know that there are a couple other starters who can kind of pull this off. This guy, Xenoframium, was able to pull off a Solo Hardcore Nuzlocke with his Infernape in Pokemon Platinum. And hey, credit where it's due. Link is in the description if you're interested, but that was done with perfect IVs and an optimal nature. He also manipulated Infernape's EVs to raise and lower his stats consistently to be able to win this run over several attempts. I want to show that you don't need an optimal Totodile to break this game in half. Now, I'm not doing this to prove that I'm a more epic gamer than anyone, and any credit for this run should be given to Totodile, not me. Instead, I will be genning in a perfectly average Totodile with 15 IVs across the board and a neutral nature. This is also a male Totodile, which is a slight disadvantage against Whitney, but again, assuming average luck, it's the gender you're probably gonna pull. I name him Chompy because that is a good name. Now, it's true that there are statistically worse Totodiles I could have gotten than regular old Chompy here. I've chosen to handicap myself in another way. Basically, I'm going to be the laziest trainer possible to my little blue croc here. Throughout the game, I'm only going to be fighting the trainers that I absolutely have to fight. If there is a spinner, I will avoid them, and I will not fight a single wild Pokemon throughout the entire game. I don't think I need to prove to you that Totodile can beat any normal trainer in the game, and that's especially true in the low-level Johto region. Avoiding all these fights will give Chompy as little EVs, which are essentially stat experience, as possible, putting him at a disadvantage. I can use as many rare candies as I want to elevate my level, so long as I keep Chompy within the level caps. As many Nuzlockers know, rare candies will not give Chompy any EVs, so they may save me some time, but in the long run, Chompy will be at a disadvantage. All this to say that by endgame, I can almost guarantee that your Feraligatr will have better stats than mine if you're playing the game normally. I'm also not going to pretend that I have solved this game with a single Pokemon. The Totodile-Line isn't particularly fast, so we won't always be going first, and I'm certainly not going to always be using 100% accurate moves. But if you want the strategies I'm showing to be more reliable, you can basically create an instant win button by EV training Totodile in attack and speed, even just a little bit, or just feeding him the vitamins that the game hands you for free along your adventure. I won't be doing any of that here to show you that it isn't required and that Totodile can rip through the main story without that kind of help. Now, let's get into the actual run. Our first trainer battle in the game is our rival Silver, who picks Chikorita, and the main difference right off the bat from your average playthrough is that my Totodile is still at level 5 since I'm not fighting wild Pokemon. But Totodile does still have the slight advantage here with the higher attack stat and the stronger move in Scratch, which is 5 base power stronger and 5% more accurate than Chikorita's Tackle. Our rival countering us with such a weak starter is one of the many feathers in Totodile's cap, which can't really be said in a region like Hoenn. Already, the scales start to tip our way, and spamming Scratch is enough to get the win. Once we head back to town, Lyra teaches us how to catch Pokemon. It's here I should mention that I will be using other Pokemon to use HMs, even though Feraligatr can learn every single HM move in the game aside from Fly. However, this Pidgey and Sentret can cover all the bases we're gonna need on that end, which brings me to the only illegitimate thing I'll be doing in this run. Since I'll only be using one Pokemon in battle, it is physically impossible to stay within the level caps of most gyms, even when avoiding as many trainers as I can. To get around this, I'll be hacking in an experience share for one of those Pokemon to hold for most of the game. This doesn't affect the amount of trainers we're gonna fight or the EVs we'll earn, it's just a workaround to spread the experience so I can play by my own rules. As we travel along Route 30, I should also note that we're going to allow our mom to save some of our money as she'll be buying us some nice items for us down the road. With minimal trainer fights, we enter Sprout Tower at a measly level 7. Here, we'll have to fight some of the only grass types we'll ever need to face, but the scariest is probably the first set of Bellsprouts since our level is so low. However, none of these are threatening in the slightest, and the Bellsprout give great XP, enough to grow to level 9 after our first fight here and learn Rage, an invaluable early game tool. By the time we come across Elder Lee, we're still only level 11. It's in this fight that we'll take our new move for a test run. This move starts out as a low base power normal type attack, but once we get one off, it'll increase our attack stat by 1 each time Chompy gets hit. We can't always guarantee that the opponent will attack us, but even +1 attack is such an advantage that it pulls us through common fights like this. Even with a few turns lost due to sleep, Chompy easily has the bulk to clear Sprout Tower and allow us to face the first gym, where things are going to get a little more difficult. See, we're going to be facing an evolved Pokemon in Falkner's ace Pidgeotto, who is bulkier than anything we've ever seen by this point, especially with Roost, and there are basically no resources to equip our Pokemon with this early on. There is a man here who will give us some useful berries in exchange for some shards. However, these cannot be obtained without Rock Smash, which cannot be used outside of battle until defeating the first gym. At first we may seem cornered, but if you make your way to the ruins of Alph, head into this room and read the back panel. You will find that the unknown spell the word escape. The puzzle here is asking us to use an escape rope in this very spot, and we can find one for free right next to Elder Lee. Doing this opens up a secret room behind the ruins where we can obtain a couple free items, including exactly one Oran Berry to heal 10 HP in a pinch. We can equip Totodile with this to better our odds against Falkner. I've also fed Chompy one rare candy to boost him to the level cap of 13, where he's now learned Bite. Now, the biggest obstacle in this fight is actually Falkner's lead Pidgey. We would prefer if it didn't go for Sand Attack here, since it makes this fight a little bit shakier, and so our best course of action for preventing that is going for a flinch with Bite and then finishing it off with Rage. His ace Pidgeotto will always outspeed us and go for a Gust, which increases our attack thanks to Rage. Mix in a Leer and our bites are now going to be doing more than half of Pidgeotto's health. The big bird is now cornered as it spams Roost in desperation, but there's just nothing it can do. The Oran Berry gives us the cushion we need for a very easy win. Chompy has single-handedly earned us the Zephyr Badge, the first of many. Right after, I'd recommend taking a bit of time to go rock smashing to farm some items. If you're interested, you can check out this little guide that I made to optimize item farming via Rock Smash in HGSS, but the Cliff Notes version is that this rock right here in Violet City has the highest item spawn rate in the game and will never waste our time with a wild encounter. Boosting my odds with the newly hatched Serene Grace Togepi, I have all the items I'll need for the rest of the run in under 5 minutes. 3 heart scales which will come in handy later, and a couple of each shard which can be traded to this guy for some very useful berries including Oran and Citrus berries which will heal our HP, and a bunch of status healing berries as well. Down on Route 32, we'll also want to break this boulder to uncover the Shell Bell, which will heal us for 1/8 of the damage that we're dealing. This is great for a Pokemon like Chompy, who's going to be dishing out a lot of heavy hits, and this will basically become our default item going forward. Once we reach Azalea Town, we can easily clear Team Rocket out of the Slowpoke well and make our way to Bugsy's gym. There's only one mandatory trainer here, as this double battle can be avoided by only carrying one Pokemon, but it also means that we won't have the XP share on for the Bugsy fight. At the level cap of 17, Totodile is unfortunately still in its first form, so he'll need a bit of help to take down this monster of a Scyther. This Pokemon easily outspeeds us and packs an extremely deadly stab move in U-turn. However, it usually won't go for this move unless it sees a kill with it or Scyther's HP is threatened and it wants to escape. And so, we'll start off with a Leer so we don't scare it away, keeping its HP at full, and Scyther reciprocates with a Leer of his own. But now with Scyther's defense lowered, Totodile can one-shot by landing a quad-effective Rock Tomb learned via TM available in the Union Cave. In Gen 4, this isn't the most accurate move in the world with a 20% chance to miss, but I'm still calling this a pretty clean win for Chompy as he picks his teeth with the rest of Bugsy's team. The experience earned here lifts us to level 18 and allows our late bloomer to evolve into our mid-stage form, Croconaw. It's in this stage where our lack of speed is going to be the most evident, but we appreciate the increased attack and bulk. We're going to need this power spike to take down our very next fight, Rival Silver, because hands up, this right here is the only fight in the game that's actually going to challenge us. His lead Ghastly is no problem, but out comes the only threatening grass type that we'll ever face, Bayleaf. However, because of Silver's AI, this fight isn't actually as scary as it may first seem. Bayleaf's only attacking move, Razor Leaf, is actually its last priority unless it sees a kill with it, which it won't if we're at full health. This seems to be true no matter which starter Silver is using. So Bayleaf will always prioritize setting up Reflect, poisoning you with Poison Powder, and healing itself with Synthesis if its HP isn't full. Our strategy for this fight is simply to last as long as we possibly can, and we will need a decent amount of luck to see us through. We'll want to start with a Leer to turn Bite into a 3-hit KO. Bite has a 30% chance to flinch, and we do outspeed, so you're likely to buy yourself some free turns. Here, Bayleaf goes for Poison Powder, which is great because I can cure the first one with a held Pecha Berry, and one flinch is all Croconaw needs to run away with this fight. He is poisoned again by the time Bayleaf falls, but we still have plenty of health to spare as we finish off the Zubat. Those are the two most inconsistent fights in the game now behind us, and this is the point where this line really starts to snowball. As we arrive in Goldenrod City, the first thing we'll want to do is make our way over to the game corner. Gym Leader Whitney is no joke, and to beat her consistently, we're going to need to win some prizes by playing Voltorb Flip. A total of 6,000 coins will be needed, but for consistency, we're going to want to scrounge up an extra 1,000 for a Wide Lens, a held item that boosts our accuracy by 10%.
Gator needs a scat, you punk-ass bitch!
We're going to be buying 2 TMs with our winnings, Swords Dance and Substitute. These two moves are what we in the biz call the meta, and being able to learn both of them are what separates the men from the boys in Gen 4 Johto. Swords Dance is a status move that doubles our attack and will be quintessential for us to hit the damage thresholds going forward, so it'll be staying in our moveset for the rest of the game. Substitute is an extremely underrated move in any game. This move sacrifices a quarter of our health to set up a decoy to take hits for us, and blocks almost all status moves. This move sees a lot of competitive use, but in-game, it's an absolute powerhouse because the AI simply does not know how to handle it. With these two tools combined, Chompy is about to break Johto's mid-game over his knee. To show you what I mean, let's move on to Gym Leader Whitney, who needs no introduction, but Chompy here is about to make her look effortless. She leads with Clefairy, and we're going to want to set up a substitute right away. Notice how the AI does not acknowledge our substitute, as it will randomly throw out moves like Mimic, even though it's now rendered useless. This will give us plenty of time to get off all 3 Sword Stances to max out our attack, and yes, we will need all of them. Metronome can be quite tricky as it pulls off a super effective Shockwave next turn to break our sub. However, that's actually what we want. When Clefairy goes down, we want to have a substitute up with low health remaining, like less than a third. You can just continue to spam Sword Stance until Clefairy breaks your sub enough times if you need to, and you should have plenty of time. This Clefairy got pretty lucky with its Metronome pulls. Finally, Miltank enters the field. The reason we want our health so low is for one simple reason. Attract actually does penetrate our substitute, but once again, the AI does not know our sub is there, and so Miltank sees the kill here with Stomp and will instead go for that. We've just bought ourselves exactly one free turn against Miltank, and that's all Chompy needs. He can connect a single Rock Tomb, which is now a respectable 88% accurate thanks to the wide lens, knocking Miltank just above Citrus Berry range and lowering its speed by 1. The cornered cow is now a sitting duck, as Croconaw can now outspeed and finish it off with a slightly stronger bite for a guaranteed kill. This is a very consistent way to counter one of the toughest fights in this game. I'm not going to pretend it's completely foolproof. Clefairy can pull a lot of random crap with Metronome, but you should win this fight 9 times out of 10. After that, we can mosey on over to the Burned Tower to face Silver for the 3rd time. Unfortunately, Silver's difficulty will only go downhill from here. The only thing we need to win this fight is for his lead Ghastly to not use Curse on turn 1. He seems to pick any move equally, meaning this has about a 75% chance to go our way. Our item of choice here is going to be either a Lum or Persim Berry to shake off the Confuse Ray if he elects to go for that, buying us a free turn to set up our sub, and the fight is over from there. Ghastly cannot break our sub, and Curse will not work against it, meaning we can get off our Swords Dances and sweep his team with a combo of Bite and our new move, Ice Fang. The following Morty fight is very similar. We're once again wishing we were slightly faster to outspeed his lead Ghastly, but once our sub is up, the battle is won. When I say slightly faster, I mean that this thing outspeeds us by 3, so a bit of EV training can seal the deal if you want. This time around, I would recommend holding a Lum Berry specifically since Lick does have a chance to paralyze, but we do also want to be prepared in case we get put to sleep later on in the fight. His ace Gengar will break our sub with a Shadow Ball, but it's too little too late. Only one of his Haunter no Hypnosis, and the Lum Berry will wake us up assuming it's still intact and there just isn't anything the last one can do to us. 4 badges down, and the run only gets easier from here. Now that we've grabbed the Surfeit gem, the first thing I do after Morty is head to the Lake of Rage and defeat/run away from the Red Gyarados. It's so great of this Pokemon to only show up as soon as the game became trivial. I take out the Mahogany Rocket hideout while we're here, as it's the easiest way to stay under the level caps. Naturally, this stretch is no trouble at all, as its ultimate fight is a double battle with the literal champion. It's pretty nice that Lance lets us kill his level 40 Dragonite for some free Shell Bell healing too. That's some not so subtle foreshadowing of things to come, by the way. After clearing out Team Rocket, Chompy evolves again into his final form, a fully evolved Feraligatr at only level 30, the earliest starter evolution of all time. This means that Chompy gets a significant stat boost before fighting the 5th gym, highlighted by a monstrous physical attack and a pretty underrated defense stat as well. But you may have noticed that our 2 attacking moves are both resisted by fighting, the signature type of the upcoming gym leader, Chuck, so we'll need a new toy to make this fight easier. Our best bet here is going to be the 102 base power return TM, which can be attained from this lady at the Goldenrod department store on Sundays. With the power of friendship at our side, the 5th gym leader becomes much more manageable. There are a lot of different things that Chuck can do in this fight, but Feraligatr has an answer to all of them. Your best chance at keeping control in this fight is holding the wide lens, as his lead Primeape is faster and tends to go for double team. Set up a single Swords Dance and Return will take it out in 1 hit. If you miss, don't worry, we can survive a Focus Punch comfortably. His last Pokemon is Poliwrath, who is bulky, but finally we face a Pokemon we can outspeed. Our best bet here is to go for Substitute, as Poliwrath's only move that will break the sub is Focus Punch, but he's more likely to go for Hypnosis or Body Slam here, which will buy us a free turn and we can finish the fight with a couple more attacks. The mid-game mediocrity continues, as Price is a free win thanks to Chompy's resistance to ice and his first Pokemon Seal being a pretty pathetic lead. You should know the drill by now. Substitute to +6 and away we go with Return to earn our 6th badge. Last for the gym leader gauntlet is Jasmine, but this one is even easier. You can save yourself a trip to the Pokemon Center if you want, because all we're doing here is giving Chompy the choice specs obtained at the Lake of Rage and clicking Surf 3 times in a row to blow Jasmine away. It's a little sad to have to drop Ice Fang for it, but just like that, Johto's midgame is now behind us without even a hint of resistance. Now we head back to Goldenrod City for the Rocket Gauntlet. However, our newfound Spec Surf strat will clear the path here as well, since Coughing and Wheezing have basically no special bulk. Feraligatr's special attack is nothing, well, special, but it's good enough to get the job done where we need it to. Next, our rival Silver wants another crack at us, but this just isn't his best showing. He'll lead with Golbat, but now we're starting to see Feraligatr's half-decent speed come into play, as Chompy is now quick enough to get his sub up first, meaning this rival fight is even more free than the last one, as Return and Surf deal with his entire team. The final Proton fight barely counts as a boss, but Ariana is a slight upgrade. Not enough to even touch us, mind you, as we still outspeed the Arbok, but I mean, she has a grass type, right? That's almost scary. And lastly, the Team Rocket plot ends with an anticlimax in more ways than usual. Rocket Boss Archer can be taken out in just 3 turns with some more choice spec surf shenanigans, ending Team Rocket once and for all. With that, more of Johto opens up to us and we can finally make our way to Blackthorn City. The first thing we'll want to do is head into this house where we can visit a few NPCs to play with our moveset. The first is the move Deleter, who can delete HM moves, and he'll allow us to drop Surf. It surfed us well, but Furret can do all of the swimming from here on. We also have the move Reminder, who will let us relearn any move we've forgotten in our level up moveset in exchange for a heart scale, an admittedly extremely rare item in HGSS, but luckily we've already done the legwork to play around with our moveset as much as we want. We're going to use one heart scale right away to relearn one of Feraligatr's best kept secrets, Agility. I've mentioned a couple times now that Feraligatr's biggest weakness is its average speed. It's great for 90% of the game, but we've seen how the odds can in theory get away from us when Chompy gets outsped. Unlike Swampert, however, Feraligatr has the tools to fix its speed. I will say it right now, Agility plus Sword Dance means the game is, in fact, over. You have won. I will show you the formality that is the rest of the game, starting with Johto's final gym leader Claire, allegedly one of the toughest fights in the entire game. Very few Pokemon can handle this fight on their own, but as you may have guessed, Feraligatr is one of them. She leads with an intimidating Gyarados, meaning that our attack is -1 right off the bat. But its strongest move, against Feraligatr at least, is the piddling Dragon Rage, which always does exactly 40 damage. It cannot crit, and it has no secondary effect, and Gyarados will always go for this. At the level cap, my Feraligatr has 129 HP, and yours will probably have even more, meaning that we can take 3 Dragon Rages and nothing more. You can see that it outspeeds initially, as will her ace Pokemon, but 1 Agility fixes that. We can spend our remaining 2 turns using Swords Dance to get the +3 attack, surviving at only 9 HP. We may seem backed into a corner, but this fight is actually over already because Chompy here packed a lunch. I've slapped on him the Natural Gift TM, a move that's type is determined by the berry we're holding. A held Pecha Berry will change this attack to a 1-time 60 base power electric move, easily enough for the one-shot. Claire's remaining 3 Pokemon are Dragon types, and conveniently we can grab a Dragonclaw TM from the Goldenrod Lottery on a Sunday to hit them super effectively for an automatic win against Johto's toughest gym leader, earning us our final gym badge. After that, Claire will send us on a fetch quest to the Dragon's Den where we'll have to pass this test. Don't worry about all the training your Pokemon with love and care stuff. Just keep using rare candies on Feraligatr and you'll be totally fine. Our next order of business before heading to the Pokemon League is to head over to Ecruteak City for some of the trickiest fights in the game. Here, we'll have to take on 5 Kimono Girls in a row, each one wielding an evolution. These fights are designed for you to pivot into your team member that deals with the type that you're facing. With such a diverse set of opponents, there are almost no Pokemon in the game that can take out all 5 of them cleanly. But of course, Feraligatr can. But we will have to play around with our moveset a little bit to come out on top, and get some help from our mom of all places. Way back at the beginning of the game, we asked our mom to save some of our money, and we're finally going to cash that in. After saving up 30,000, our mom will eventually buy us a Choice Scarf, an item that will raise our speed by 1 stage at the cost of limiting us to 1 move per battle. We're gonna need the speed boost from the Choice Scarf to outspeed some of the faster evolutions, and the item's drawback is basically non-existent here since these fights only have 1 Pokemon each. Feraligatr's Learn Set has plenty of coverage to deal with all 5 Kimono Girls. Waterfall outdamages Umbreon, Crunch for Espeon, Waterfall again for Flareon, Dig for Jolteon, learned by the TM from National Park, and a couple more crunches to vanquish Vaporeon. After that, we can wrap up the story at the Whirl Islands and continue on our merry way to Victory Road, where we'll have one final test against Silver. However, this is one of his easier fights, since this time he leads with Sneasel, who's just setup fodder. It already outspeeds Feraligatr, so it'll never go for its scariest move, Icy Wind, and its feint attacks just aren't doing much damage, giving Chompy the opportunity to wash away his physically frail team one last time. And so, here we are at the Pokemon League. Here's one last look at Chompy's stats before we go in. In a casual playthrough, you'll probably have surpassed what Chompy is showing here, but I assure you, we've got all we need to claim our title as the champion of Johto. Here's the moveset we're walking in with, temporarily replacing Waterfall with Crunch. And if you know anything about Pokemon, you can see how the next few fights are a mere formality. We've already won. First up is Elite Four Will, and I recommend packing a Lumberry for this fight because there are a lot of different things that Will's AI can do, but we're prepared for all of them. No matter what his lead Xatu does, it's best to go for agility on turn 1, as we don't outspeed his most annoying Pokemon, Jinx, who can put us to sleep with Lovely Kiss. Xatu will always pivot into this Pokemon, but at +2 speed we take it out with a single Crunch. The battle really isn't that complicated from there, as we can squeeze in a Swords Dance wherever we can to take out his bulkier Pokemon, and none of them can really do much to us in return. Crunch hits them all super effectively and gets us our first win. Koga is next, but this one is even simpler. A Pechaberry can be held for good measure in case Ariados poisons us while we get off a Swords Dance before taking it out with Waterfall, which we've now swapped in for Crunch. Fortress will always follow, and this thing will basically just sit there and spam Protect, which you just can't do against a Pokemon this strong. That's enough to get up to +6, and the stab damage is easily enough to overpower Koga's team for another easy win. After that is Bruno, and I recommend equipping the Shell Bell here to save yourself a full restore, as his lead Hitmontop can barely touch us and just chooses to spam counter anyway. Once again, Swords Dance and Waterfall are all we need to come out clean here, with the Shell Bell's healing bringing us right back to full health. Thanks for the free heal, Bruno. The final Elite Four member is Karen, whose toughest Pokemon is her lead Umbreon, a somewhat annoying Pokemon that can put a wrench in our plans with Double Team and Confuse Ray if it gets lucky enough. I recommend holding a Persim or Lumberry over the Widelands because I'm less afraid of Double Team than I am Chompy hitting himself in Confusion. Umbreon's attacks won't do much to us, but our Confusion would since our attack stat is so high. Our best bet is to make quick work of the Umbreon and not to set up more than we need to. I recommend leading with a Waterfall right off the bat. There's a 30% chance that this will cause Umbreon to flinch, but the AI also seems more inclined to go for damaging moves once Umbreon has taken damage. Once we've chipped away at it, we can Swords Dance once, and that's all we'll need to finish it off with another Waterfall. Vileplume will come out next, seeing the super effective Petal Dance, but remember that grass types are not actually a counter so long as we have Ice Fang. Gengar is next, and we'll have to be a little careful here not to fall for Destiny Bond. Instead, go for Agility once so that we outspeed. If Gengar doesn't go for Destiny Bond, we can take him out with a Waterfall. And now that we're at +2 speed, her last two Pokemon can be finished off with a couple more Waterfalls. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your regular everyday Feraligatr making quick work of the Johto Elite Four. There's only one fight left, and I hate to break this to you, but Lance is just another anticlimax. Like, this may be our easiest one yet. Like his sister, Lance leads with the inferior water type Gyarados, though funnily enough, Claire's Gyarados would actually be scarier here because it knew Dragon Rage over Dragon Pulse, which would at least guarantee 40 damage against us. Lance actually gives us more time to set up than his sister did. All we need is one agility and 2 Swords Dances and away we go. Gyarados will take 2 hits from Ice Fang, but the rest are all cannon fodder. All 3 Dragonites get obliterated with Ice Fang, and this fight is so free that we can afford to equip the Wide Lens so that we don't miss a 95, and his last 2 Pokemon are crushed by Stab Waterfalls. That's it. Stop the count. Chompy the Feraligatr has absolutely worked this champion fight and punched our ticket to the Hall of Fame. With a time of 6 hours and 11 minutes, that's the entirety of Johto completely swept by Chompy the average Feraligatr with basically no pushback. But maybe that's not enough for you, because there's still an entire second region to this game just waiting to be vanquished. And sure, what the hell, let's continue Chompy's conquest into the postgame. It's assumed that our level cap here is going to be level 60 for the final gym leader Blue, and that we can take on any of the 8 Kanto gyms in any order, and so we follow a path that adheres to Chompy's current moveset. I'm still avoiding as many trainers as I can, but our EVs will still be maxed out by the end of this gauntlet. I'll spare you the details because I'm sure you get the gist by now. Swords Dance and Agility are enough to wipe out basically all of Kanto. Waterfall and Ice Fang are good enough coverage to see us past Janine, Blaine, Brock, and Erica. You may think that the latter would pose a challenge with her grass types, but her lead Jumpluff is just setup fodder with its 55 special attack stat, and agility lets us outspeed her whole team even when chlorophyll is active. For Sabrina and Misty, I drop Waterfall for Crunch, relearned via Heart Scale, and clear these 2 fights easily as well. But there are now 3 fights in the game remaining that, believe it or not, will actually need to use some brain cells to overcome. The first, surprisingly, is Lieutenant Surge. Now, ordinarily, it wouldn't be too hard to set up on his lead Raichu since its strongest attack is the piddling Shockwave. The problem is, most of his team has the static ability, and most of our attacking moves like Crunch, Waterfall, or Ice Fang make contact. So it's pretty likely that we'll get paralyzed even if we carry a Cherry Berry, and that's not quite as reliable as I'd like it to be this far into the run. The easy answer here is the Earthquake TM, but I know we'll need to save that for later. Instead, I settle for the Rock Slide TM earned by defeating Brock. I also use another substitute TM because I know his Raichu will want to go for Double Team or Thunder Wave, which it does, several times, allowing us to set up as much as we want and bury his whole team in a pile of rocks. It's also worth noting that we're holding the Wide Lens here, improving Rock Slide's accuracy to 99%. And Kanto's Gym Leader Gauntlet ends with Blue, who packs the most diverse team we've seen so far, and it'll be very tough to set up on his lead Exeggutor since it packs Leaf Storm, which can take Chompy out in a single hit. But it also drops his special attack, meaning that we can spam Substitute 4 times to get his special attack all the way down to -6. Just when it seems like Chompy is cornered, we pull our trap card, a Rest TM, earned by delivering Kenya the Spearow to this guy on Route 31. We've dropped this for agility since we outspeed everything in this fight already. Rest heals us back to full, and a held Chesto Berry wakes us up immediately as Exeggutor unleashes its final Leaf Storm. Now that the storm has been weathered, the grass type cannot break our sub with a -6 Psychic, which allows us to finally get our Swords Dances off. We wait for Trick Room to expire, resting when we need to before Chompy does his thing. With 3 movesets spoken for, we need one single move to sweep Blue's entire team. That one move is Dragon Claw, as Dragon is one of the only types that Blue doesn't have a resistance for. Once again, Chompy does what he was born to do, rampaging through the rest of Blue's team, earning us our 16th and final Gym Badge. And finally, the only fight that remains is Pokemon Trainer Red. Another well-rounded team that we'll have to cover our bases for, and Red's Pokemon will come out swinging as he leads with his biggest threat, a level 88 light ball wielding Pikachu. Unfortunately, Pikachu just isn't as fast as the anime would like you to think, and with maxed out EVs, Chompy strikes first, finally using our Earthquake TM to take it out. After this, Red sends out the grass type Venusaur, and if you've learned anything about Feraligatr in this video, let it be this. Grass types are not a counter, as it goes for Sleep Powder, giving us our opening to sub up, set up, and sweep with the 1-2 punch of Earthquake and Waterfall. The Shell Bell keeps us alive as Red's Pokemon drop one Pokemon after another until Chompy, the average Feraligatr, is all that remains. One Pokemon, one attempt, one dream. That's Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver soloed with just a Totodile. Now, I'm hoping I finally shed some light on the little guy, giving him some consideration as one of the best starters of all time. I don't know that there's any starter Pokemon that can clear the game with this little effort. Yeah, he's not Gyarados, but where was Gyarados when the game was actually hard? Totodile came out swinging right out of the gate, and he never looked back, and I'm damn proud of him. I know that people are going to be quick to defend Pokemon like Swampert as the ultimate water starter, saying that it requires less effort and can just mash Earthquake and Surf, and that's great, but I personally think Feraligatr has the higher ceiling. 100% of the game is 100%. It just doesn't get better than that. But I digress. I've presented you the facts, and you can decide for yourself. All I've set out to do is show this Pokemon some love, and I was happy to do it. I hope you all enjoyed watching what will probably be the only Nuzlocke I'll ever do on this channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.